Okay, so this movie is the latest attempt at having Wolverine go into his own solo movie. The last one didn't pan out so well. Okay, so in this movie, we catch up with Wolverine after the events of X-Men Last Stand, and he's a little shooken up. By the way, I could rant on about X-Men Last Stand, but for the sake of time, let's just keep going on with this movie. Okay, so let's talk about the Wolverine. We catch up with Logan, aka Wolverine. He's living out in the wilderness, he's hanging out with the animals. He looks like one of the guys from Duck Dynasty. And you can tell that he's still affected by the events that happened in X-Men Last Stand. I think we all are. I mean, talk about another bad movie. Anyway, he's still dealing with the death of Jean Grey. And at this point in his life, his best friend is a grizzly bear. That really is true. The opening to this movie takes place in Nagasaki during World War II, and it takes place right when the atomic bomb is being dropped, and it's a very intense, emotional scene. Essentially, Wolverine saves this man's life, and that comes into play. That's pretty much the setup for the rest of the movie. But the way that this scene's done, I mean, the visual effects, the emotional impact that it had, and for me, that scene really set the tone for this movie. It really showcased that this movie is going to be more than just some junky, bloated movie, and also it kind of reminded me of another X-Men opening scene. You know, the first X-Men movie where you have a young Magneto and he's being separated from his parents at a concentration camp. Both very intense scenes. Okay, so the man that Wolverine saves in the beginning of the movie becomes very successful later on in life, and he wants to repay Wolverine for saving his life. And the way that he wants to repay him is basically by making him mortal, taking away his powers, that way he can die an old man. Okay, let's talk about Hugh Jackman, who's been playing Wolverine for what, 12 years now? And I'll be honest with you, I always thought Jackman was good in the role, but I was never blown away by him until this movie, because they finally unleashed the Wolverine in this movie. That's right, this movie's only rated PG-13, and in this movie they pushed that PG-13 rating to its limit. I mean, everything that you can possibly get away with in a movie with a PG-13 rating, they did it. And that was always one of my major issues with Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine, because in all the other movies, they kind of suppress him as Wolverine. And, you know, in this movie, he finally, you know, does a berserker Wolverine attack and kicks some ass. And it was nice to see him finally get some blood on his claws. That's right, in this movie, Wolverine finally has blood on his claws. And for that, I give it 2 thumbs up. I wish I had claws. I would give it claws up. Yeah, I really wish I had claws. This movie really allowed Hugh Jackman to embrace the role of Wolverine, and you can tell that the guy likes playing Wolverine, or else he wouldn't have done it, what, 6 or 7 times now? And you could tell, finally, in this movie, they give you the truest version of Wolverine you've ever seen. And this time around, Hugh Jackman was eating more protein than ever before, because he's always been in pretty good shape whenever he played Wolverine, but in this movie, he took it to the next level. I mean, his veins were literally looking like road maps. They were popping out and bulging. I mean, every little muscle in his body was tingling. I mean, I was just looking at the guy and I was getting scared, and then it made me want to go do some push-ups just to watch the rest of the movie. Now, one of the main supporting characters in the movie is Yukio. She's also a mutant, and she kind of works for the old man who wants to repay Logan a favor. Anyway, at first I didn't like her character. Her mutant powers foreseeing someone's death, and she's also really good with a sword. And as the movie progressed on, I really got behind her character. She became a little bit more likable to me. Her and Hugh Jackman kind of had a good chemistry going on throughout the movie. Now, almost all of this movie takes place in Japan, and it's much like the comic books that came before. And you know, another cool thing is you get ninjas, you get samurais, and it's a really cool tone and atmosphere to have Wolverine in. Okay, let's talk about one of the bad guys from the movie. Actually, this is technically a bad chick. Her name is Viper. She was always wearing like green shiny suits. She almost reminded me of Poison Ivy from Batman and Robin, and that's never a good thing. Anyway, her character is a little bit too over the top and a little bit too cheesy and corny, and it really kind of took you out of this vibe that the movie was setting up, because this movie overall feels like a real movie. It doesn't feel like an over-the-top comic book movie with a lot of cheese in it. So yeah, I would say that her character is pretty much the weakest element of the entire movie. Now, as far as the action scenes go in this movie, I'm going to compare it to another movie called X-Men Origins real quick. You know, that movie just had over-the-top bloated action happening for no reason. It didn't have any meaning or depth behind it, and as a viewer, you're just like, okay, there's CGI explosions. But in this movie, now there's plenty of action in this movie, don't get me wrong, but it almost feels subtle, and it feels useful to the story. And by the end of this movie, I came to the conclusion, Hugh Jackman is Wolverine. And, you know, judging by the other movies, I always thought he was good in the role, but this movie really solidifies the fact that Hugh Jackman was made for this role. Okay, let's talk about the one major negative that this movie has besides that Viper chick. The last 20 minutes of this movie, the big climax action scene that goes down, you hit all those typical cliches, you know, and some of them are well done, but some of it's sort of stupid and you're just like, don't do that. Okay, you're going to do that. So the movie, The Wolverine, overall it's a solid ass-kicking action movie with the Wolverine in it, and it was nice to finally see some subtleties about the character of the Wolverine. You know, you finally get to know him. The movie takes its time when it needs to, there's character development, and in my opinion, this is the Wolverine movie people have been waiting to see. So I'm gonna give the Wolverine a B+. Alright, so that's my take on the movie The Wolverine. Let me know what yours is down below, or let me know what your favorite X-Men movie of all time is. I'm gonna say that mine would probably be X-Men First Class, and this movie, The Wolverine. Let me know what yours is down below, and by the way, if you haven't already, check out my last review. It's where I get my ass kicked, I'm laying a pool of blood. Yeah, I talk about the movie Only God Forgives. Check that out, I'll put an annotation up here, or you can wait till the end of the video, there'll be a big thumbnail, you click it, there's some epic music playing in the background. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.